here I'm just milling up a English walnut log that I picked up from P&W Specialty Woods on the west coast of Washington. It's a beautiful piece of wood, but it had lots of little branches and inclusions sticking out. So I had to take a couple of different passes to figure out exactly the best way to get a maximum size blank out of this. I'm using my Grizzly 2 horsepower 17-inch bandsaw with a 6 teeth per inch carbide blade from Supercuts. I've found this to be a very reliable way of getting my blanks prepared before I take them to the lathe. And I thought I'd just share a little of that process with you before we actually jump to the turn. Here I'm just setting up for a nice circle. I like using these circle jigs with an awl and a pencil when I'm setting up on a rectangular blank. And then I can take it back over to the bandsaw and knock off some of those corners. Just as easier than trying to use a compass. Okay, I've prepped up this blank of very dry English walnut. Had to cut a lot of cracks out of it. But we've got it down. There's still a little pith crack in here. We'll see how that turns out. And we still have one crack here. I didn't want to make it any smaller. I'm hoping we can either turn past this or we can do a nice fill that'll make it look good. I have my center marked here. This is a 70 millimeter circle on the inside, 80 millimeter on the outside. I cut at the 80, probably expecting to get down to 70 on the end. And we have a nice center marked out here. So I'm just going to put that in my 4-prong center here to mark center. And then look for some flat. And we'll try to mount it up where we get it nice and flat against the headstock there. And that should be pretty good. So I'm going to take a 5/8 inch bowl gouge with an Irish grind, sharpen it up really good for us here. Let's make sure you can see what we've done here. So I'm using the 4-prong center right there. And on the other side, just my standard 3-bearing live center. So we've centered it off. It's about 4 inches thick. And what's 70 millimeters? You see, it's roughly 5 inches, right? No, 72. That's about 3. Nah, it's got to be more than that. Jeez, I'm losing my marble today, guys. So let's actually get out a ruler here. This is a 6-inch ruler, so we're about... So it's 70 millimeter, I'm sorry, it's 140 millimeter total diameter, 70 millimeter radius. That's what I was, my head's getting all screwy here. So we're just about 7 inches in diameter across the whole piece there. So we should end up with about a 6 by 3.5 inch bowl is my goal. Okay, we're gonna start out here with the lathe all the way off. Flip our power on, slowly turn up our speed. Just kind of monitor how fast we can get a turn on this. 1050 RPM, no vibration, plenty fast for what we're going to try to do here. So let's get that mask and face shield on and see what this wood has for us. A little bit of vibration here. We just want to flatten out this bottom. You can hear where where I had a bad bandsaw cut there, so we're going to get past that real quick. But that wood's going to be very pretty, and we got a lot of room to work with here. Hopefully you can still see here. See, nice big dry shavings. Some tear out down here on the bottom from my quick cut, but it's going to turn lovely. So we'll get the tool rest adjusted in here. Keep working away. I get in just a rough shape first before we go too far. Come around the bottom here a little bit and start a tenon. Start it right back there. Good place to start. Yeah, I like the kind of look of that. Go for a little more of a swooping round shape here. I don't think we want a square-sided bowl at all. to get past all of that bark. And we got a couple little flats there still, but ooh, there's going to be some ripple, some really pretty chatoyancy in there. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty piece of wood there. I think this can end up being a pretty nice little breakfast bowl if we get the right shape on it. A little cereal or soup bowl maybe. I love the way those shavings feel. Okay, we've already got down to where this bark is cutting nicely and could be sanded, but I don't know if we want to leave bark in it or not. The wood's dry enough that it won't lift off later. Ooh, got some nice rusting stain in there, so I'm afraid there might be some metal, but all that chatoyancy is gorgeous. And that ugly pith. Let me move the camera around so my elbow's not in your way. Okay, that should be a slightly better angle for you. Thing about English walnut, all these beautiful shavings, and it smells kind of like cinnamon. It's really hard to explain the smell, but it's just a lovely, lovely odor. Okay, we still have big crack right there, some coming out of the pith here as well, so I'm going to shrink it down a bit, see how far that's going to go, but it might end up having to be filled. I don't want to lose too much of the diameter, and the chatoyancy is pretty easy to fill stuff if we need to. We're through that bark at the bottom here. So let's go ahead and finish rounding it off so we can pick up the speed a bit. And I'm going to slightly close the top of the rim because I kind of like the nice round bottom that swoops back up. And we do have some, well, we'll take some depth off the top. Still have a flat spot here. And I'm not nuts about that bark, so we'll take some of that out too. But we're mostly round, so let's go ahead and see if we can set up for a nice big swooping cut to give us a little cleaner pass here. We're still going to round that bottom quite a bit more, and my tool rest is too high for the cut I want to make, so I'm going to bring it down quite a bit more. If you guys notice, I use fingers, so I have like a 1 finger height setting and a 2 finger height setting down at my tool post. It's kind of my way of doing it. Okay, I had to take a double pass there. We're okay on that. Pull out a little bit. Might need to put an edge on this pretty soon. Feeling a little bit of interesting vibration here. Find out where that is. See if it's the crack. Yeah, I can feel a vibration here in the wood. I'm not certain. Whenever I get that, I want to know. Could just be the knot here. It's doing a bounce. And our crack up here is still pretty significant. And only cracks we have here are pith, real easy to fill. Got some beautiful coloring and a lot of really pretty wood. A little tear out here from my downhill cut, but we'll fix that up pretty easy. Let's go ahead and get a little CA in these cracks before we go too much further. And that way we can fill them and get an idea for what that's going to look like, if it's going to be an attractive fill. If not, we'll just have to keep turning past them, which would be a shame because this is a nice piece of wood, and something in that 6-inch range is generally a very useful bowl and a pretty bowl. People like that size, at least my customers do anyway. I've found personally that I love turning giant stuff. So much fun. But I generally have very few customers are interested in something that big, at least at the pricing. If it's the same price as a 6-inch bowl, of course, people are happy. But you start getting into the things that are over $100 in my market are a little more difficult to move. Unless it's a commission piece and then people are coming to you for a very specific thing they want. I'm going to go ahead and put a little CA here on this this teeny knot, just to make it a little flatter. And obviously commissions are the funnest. Someone comes to you, they already have the wood in many cases, and hey, this tree came down in my yard, my parents planted it in the 40s. You know, I've got lots of cool stories behind some of the commission pieces. But when I'm just kind of turning for myself and knowing, hey, this is going to end up out on my table at the next craft fair or an art show. We have the state fair coming up, and for the first time I'm going to be entering a few pieces in the state fair, and I'm kind of excited about that. That should be fun. Mostly just to get some good feedback. The judges they have this year are people who really know the turning world, so it'll be kind of fun to see what they do. Yeah, we'll let that settle up, get a little harder, and then we'll go back to turning that. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get that those cracks taken care of nice and easy. It jumped off my bevel there. You can hear that jumping around. I'm not quite sure. Did fill nicely there. Part of the cracks filled up there. But I am jumping around quite a bit, and I'm not quite sure what I'm hitting here. Maybe I need to use a different, smaller bowl gouge, maybe. Just want to get some general shaping going on here. See, it feels like it's moving around on me here. Let's finish my shaping. Close to the shape I'm looking for here. Clamp it down a little bit tighter. I'm going to get out the pointy gouge here and start establishing my tenon, because it's moving around a little interestingly. I can't quite put my finger on what's causing it to bounce around. And I do have a lump here that obviously we're going to get rid of once we get the tenon on. So I can get my final shape, and then we'll swoop around, a little closed form. Should end up being pretty. But this crack over here needs a little more CA. The pith filled real nicely, but this longer radial crack here coming out for the pith did not fill well all the way. And it'll just look like a crack in the bowl. Obviously, I'm not going to put any other embellishment in that, unless at the end we decide to carve it or do something like that. But I don't think this one really is calling out for that. It's got a lot of ripple in it, and I wonder if that ripple is funky, because I do have a lump here that just doesn't want to cut out. The minute I get into it, the bowl starts to bounce around, which is kind of the neat thing about every piece you get is a little bit different. While that dries up, let's go ahead and establish our tenon down here. Get out my gauge here. Make sure that we've got plenty of room. Yeah, be a little under. This one is set up for 60 millimeters, so I'll be about 70-ish for my tenon. And it's got a nice dovetail on it. Let's get out the smaller gouge here. Got a good edge on it still. And I'm also going to switch tool rests to a larger tool rest. I think I got the room on as well. I think I can get a little bit better pull around that trouble spot here for me with a larger tool rest. I'm also going to move the speed up just a teeny bit. We're right around 1200 RPM now. Getting really nice shavings, nice curly cues. They're tying off good. The wood is smooth. There's no tear out. But as we turn around this corner, the gouge is wanting to jump off my bevel. So I'm going to have to take a little bit deeper cut than I really want to keep that bevel in there. And that was Basically just rotating my hips around the outside of the bowl. And we did pull out the little CA that was in that pith now, so that's going to have to be refilled, but this is turning out smoother up here. Do have a little line there still. I wonder how much deeper that is. It's worth just turning past it and giving up some more diameter. Whoops. But I am not sure yet. Still in the early stages of this one. Didn't walk into this one with a set mental plan, just kind of a, let's get out and turn something pretty. And this wood's been sitting here for a, see, that's the crack right there. I'm going to slow down that cut a little, take it in a couple passes. At that speed, boy, we're getting some lovely shavings, but it's not giving me the smoothness I'm looking for in my cuts. Trying to get my bevel to stay on. It wants to push the bevel right off, which is unusual. Okay, a little more of a pot shape. I do like that. It'll all sand up lovely. Do not like this crack here. And I'm trying to see, oops, that just keeps falling off my my tool rest here. What's going on? All right, let's take a look here. We've got some good filling in here, but it's also peeling away down the bowl. And again, that pith is not keeping the glue. It's wanting to bust out in the middle there a little. And I don't think that's going to be a huge concern in the finished product, but we do want to make sure that we're getting a nice fill here. And I might end up just getting out a big scraper with a nice bevel and seeing if we can get that edge tuned up. Let me go ahead and sharpen up the big scraper and see if that'll make a better cut. Before I get the scraper out, I'm going to go ahead and finish rounding this bottom off so we have almost a symmetrical shape here. I'm just using the left wing of my tool to do a little shaping, and then some shear scrape up around the edges here. And then I'm just kind of looking at how my look isn't in general, and I like where we're at there. So I'm going to back up just a teeny bit away from the piece, get out the big scraper, handle slightly elevated. Just see how it scrapes. So we're getting really nice fluffy stuff there. A shaping cut. Did pull out the rest of that glue now. And this one is nice and flush and flat. So I have a teeny bit of more CA to put in this pith hole. Again, that pith just wants to pull out. It's not holding the glue on. So I'm going to spread it around a little bit more. I just don't want to overstain the wood. But right in that pith section, if you're creative in how you lay out the glue, it could just look like part of the staining in the wood from the spalting. Probably more accelerated than I need it, but I really want that to settle out. Once we get that one right there, with a little proud, it's actually soaking in. So we do have a hollow pith almost in there. But I'll go ahead and spread that around just a teeny bit to kind of stain that whole pith section uniformly so it'll look a little more natural than just a glob of glue in the middle of your pith. And we'll let that dry up. And then this exterior portion, I like the shape we've got now. We'll be ready for sanding. I've got some tool lines in it that are just not coming out with the bouncing. Have a couple of branches and these small knots want to push the bevel right off, but they're nice and flat. I mean, this is smooth as glass right here. And we've got a teeny bit of tear out from the side scrape, but it'll be an easy sand at that point. And I don't want to overdo it and keep shrinking my bowl because we're already down across the diameter. We're at 4.5 inches. The main body width is still going to be almost 6 inches. So we'll have a 6 inches at its widest point, 5.5, 4.5 up on the top, and about 3 3/4 at the bottom. So our dimensions will be quite nice, and we have a little extra slope here. So our curve goes down a little more extreme than the top curve, so it'll be a slight closed form. But it'll be a real nice, easy to handle bowl. I think that'll be a good little breakfast bowl. All right, that seems to be dry enough. I'm gonna use the scraper on this again just to get the CA flat, and then we're gonna start sanding. I know the way you guys feel about sanding. I will just go ahead and put it on time lapse, or just speed it up real good for you so you don't have to stare at it. But yeah, now we're full. We're full. That crack is filled, yep, completely, and we still have all of our ripple. So I'm going to move the camera up above to the other overhead and put it on a time lapse, and then when we're ready to put the finish on, I'll pull you back in so you can see there's some really pretty ripple in this English walnut, which personally I haven't seen before in an English walnut log, so it should be fun to see how that finishes up. But it should end up being a really pretty piece. Hang with me, guys. Okay, we've got it all sanded and we've put pitas on it, so we've got it down to there. So we're ready for our shine. And for that, we're going to use our in-house shop shine, just beeswax, carnauba, little mineral oil, putting it on a typical car wash type of terry cloth you get at Costco. You know, you get 1 million of them for $1.85 or something ridiculous like that. And I'm going to start out by putting on the wax at a slower speed. We're right about 500 RPM, so it doesn't splash all over the place. So we'll just kind of get a nice liberal coating of it on there. Just kind of work it in the wood. And then we will let it, let's take a look at how if we got good coverage. I don't see any dry spots. Look at that chatoyancy right there. Isn't that beautiful? That ripple just pops. All right. And I will go ahead now and crank the speed all the way up. Got 1500 RPM. I'll hold the towel in my hand, but not wrap my hand in it. And then come under here and just kind of buff it in. And then I will fold it around again, holding the towel in my hands. Thumb and forefingers, don't wrap it in your hand. And we'll just kind of put some pressure on it and buff it in. We're at 1217 RPM right now. And we could take it over to the Beal and throw a nice hard carnauba on there, maybe if we need a little extra shine. But I think for utility, and I do still want to make this something you could eat out of, not just an art piece. Okay, that's just beautiful. Not too shiny. You can still see all the beautiful polished wood. We did sand it all the way out to 600 on this one because I was still seeing stuff that looked better as we went. Went to 800, didn't see an improvement, and the pitas got rid of all the little fine scratches. So I think that we're looking pretty good. I think we're ready to turn that one around. Yeah, let's get it flipped around and hollow her out. Using a little depth drill just to get my center hole in there so we don't have a hard turn, because I'm not going to be using tailstock support. So we'll just pull around our banjo here to a comfortable spot and set up the hollow. I'm going to grab a 5/8 inch bowl gouge and we'll jump right in here. Okay, got a standard 5/8 inch bowl gouge here. A little bit of a slight swoop and grind here. We'll turn it up right around 1000 RPM. That tool rest is a little high. Bring that down. There we go. Let's see how it cuts. go ahead and clean off that front surface, make it a little easier on us. I'm going to push my tailstock all the way out of the way so I can get a full swing here. Remember, this is very dry wood. It's not the same as turning green wood. You got to take some smaller shots. Get a shot anywhere. Okay, we're getting close up to here to where I'm going to want to round my bead over, so I'll take some lighter passes. And we're going to start going down a little bit straighter here. Again, this wood smells so nice. It really does. And you get these lovely shavings, good curly cues. Fortunately, it's very, very dry, so it's also very dusty. And I'm taking my mask on and off so I can communicate with y'all. Now, once we're getting down to the point where we need to do our undercut, I'm going to reverse the speed of the lathe and we're going to come in the other direction. I'm going to take a few more deeper passes here before we get to that point, but you can see how nice that's just smoothing out. The wood cuts beautifully. You know, some tool marks in there, but we're not taking finishing cuts. And we got a big old honking bowl gouge going right now. Okay, let's see if we can ready to start doing our undercut, because once we get down past the undercut, we can move back to traditional bowl gouge and traditional orientations without any problem. I think I got a good edge on here still. Might be ready for a fresh up. Let's go ahead and freshen up the bowl gouge and I'll be right back. Okay, we're going to turn in reverse now and see if we can get a nice cut going down there. Mask and face shield on. Start in with real gentle cuts. Oh man, how's that for not gentle? Getting some big aggressive cuts. That wasn't my intent. Let's make sure we didn't ruin our rim. Nope, just going to have to true it up a little bit. But we'll come in inside of that now. We do want the rim to be a little bit thinner, so I'm going to come in a lot of pressure down on the tool rest. See if we can find a nice little spot for available. That was not some great cutting, but we did clean up our rim. Got the thickness we're looking for, so now we just need to stay inside of that and go down to start thinning this out. And we're going to keep about that dimension through the entire piece if possible. And you can see I'm taking these smaller cuts so we can maintain that. We got some ugliness there on our rim I'm going to have to deal with, but we do have the thickness coming in the way we want it, so we'll be able to deal with that. There we go. Again, I said it a couple times, with dry wood and green wood, very different turning experiences. So now we've got our thickness nice and uniform here, so the rest of it is just coring down past that. And we'll flip it back around and take passes the other direction with our bigger bowl gouge, just to get some bulk removal done. And we're still maintaining 1,000 RPM right now. And I need to lower my tool rest a bit. And we can move it in a little. So we have nice stability. And we'll start in the middle here. Got to keep stopping with that closed rim to pull out the shavings. You can kind of see what basically what we're going to end up looking like here. Go the other direction now, just for some bulk removal. Whenever you do those closed rims, man, you get to play games with the shavings. But you can see how we're pulling in there nice and tight, keeping our uniform thickness. We're going to have some beautiful figure inside the bowl, so there'll be some interest in there, which is always nice. We're getting closer. We got our twig in there. You can see right here where a branch was coming out into that knot on the outside. So I've got my wall thickness majored on there, so we'll take a finishing cut with the smaller gouge. Oof. It's so cool. All right, make sure you're not covered in shavings. We've almost got a perfect wall here. I do have some tear out up here that I'm going to have to round over gently earlier. And we're going to come in, find our bevel gently, find where the last cut stopped, slowly swing our hips around. I'm going to stop for a minute so you can see the difference in the shavings here. So these fine shavings, these little long, thin, stringy ones, this is where we picked up our cut on this edge to smooth that out. And then the bigger shavings is as we get down to the bottom, I start hogging out that middle again. There's a little bit of moisture here in the middle of the bowl, which was not detectable from outside. I can feel it cutting differently. Everything we have going in here, though, is super sandable. We are super uniform. So now it's basically a standard bowl going down to the bottom. I'm going to leave a little weight in the bottom of the bowl, and that's so when you put something in it, you can actually eat from it and not have any issues. Think about it. We don't want any issues. See if that's going to clear. Yeah, so I'm going to come way around the edges. Okay, here's the plan anyway. Let's just talk about the plan. Oops. The plan was not to knock over that. All right, so I'm going to start out over here and then come to the bottom. It's like we're doing a regular bowl, but I'm going to have to start in the middle and kind of work my way out to that so we don't get a catch on the end or mess up this really nice rim right now. So we're going back to forward. We're still maintaining our roughly 1,000 RPM. Let me get my mask back on here. Okay. We're almost all the way down. I tried to come out backwards, but I had a really bad angle. That was just a dumb decision on my part. But you can see we're almost to our bottom depth. So now we're just going to keep pulling these in until we round out that bottom. And I'm having to come way over to the side to do it. So there's going to be a lot more of that. Probably speed up over it unless I do something silly or get a big catch or something to show you guys. But right now it's just slowly taking my time to get down to that bottom and then rounding our corners. And trying to figure out why my dog is having a heart attack. We'll get it low. And we're going to come in with an extreme angle, sharp 1/2-inch bowl gouge, and we'll just slowly round this around, and then we'll get out the bottom feeder. And once we get the bottom feeder out, we can clean up that bottom pretty easy. We'll catch all of our shavings. Okay, good. We did clear. We are turning that corner now, which we're doing it pretty well. It's going to be purty. Again, taking those light cuts, you're going to get shavings like that. And nice uniform wall thickness still. One more teeny cut that direction, and then we can move to the bottom here. That was just some bulk removal after taking care of the cut we needed. We might be ready for the bottom feeder now. Let's come the other direction now. Still using the smaller gouge. I am hitting an odd angle here to get inside of that to catch that little rim. You can see there's a little rim right here that I'm trying to catch. And to get that with the bevel ride, I need to be all the way over here. I think we can probably do that. Let's see. Really a risky maneuver. I'm not able to anchor that tool against my body like I should because of the angle. But we are able to get in there and come right down onto that and just pull it around. Once we get a nice transition there, after we get our transition established where we're happy with it or feel like at least it's nice enough that we could sand it, I don't want a flat bottom in this. It needs to be a nice round bottom. So now I'm going to keep going to the middle here. I might be able to do a pull cut out from that middle a little bit without getting a catch. Let's see if we can pull that off. Okay, we got a good angle on that. We really lucked out. Starting to see a little bit of this pith in here wanting to tear out. So that's what you're hearing as I'm just pulling the other direction. And I do not want to use a scraper here. But I might have to get out a shear scraper after we get this bottom rounded a little bit more. I still have plenty of meat to go to, so I'm going to take small, light passes going in just like a traditional bowl hollowing now. None of those are going to be clean cuts. I'm just trying to get some bulk material out of there before I get the bottom feeder in to do the blending. Still have pretty good there. I don't trust scraping this at all, but I do trust my Glen Lucas here. So let's get the bottom feeder out and see how that does some cuts down here. That felt really nice. You can see what the shavings look like. Nice, clean, no torn edges, and a pretty nice flat bottom. So we just got to keep pulling that, a round bottom, excuse me. We just got to keep pulling that back until we can blend that corner and not go through our bowl. Again, closed forms, taking shavings out all the time. But you can see how we're coming together. We're getting some nice clean cuts in there. Again, once you get to this stage, you're doing almost everything by feel. You don't get to see what you're doing. It fills up with shavings and you've got odd angles blocking you in, but you end up with some beautiful stuff. Down to our full depth. Got one little nubby nub there, and then I still have my ugliness here. So how, I don't want to try to do that in reverse. I've got plenty of depth here still, so let's just keep working ourselves in that direction, see if we can, if I can catch this. You can hear when I'm just kind of pushing through a little faster than I should, not trying to get a super clean finishing cut. Just trying to get my wall thicknesses here. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to get in there, and I think it's going to have to be in reverse again. Coming in from this direction and grabbing hold of that and making a full swing for the transition. I think that's the only safe cut there. Okay, let's give it a shot here. Don't want any catches. Got aggressive there at the bottom, but it is it's pulling our round. It's doing what we need it to do. Now I can see, hopefully you can see in there, there's where the ridge is. You can't see my tool because of the camera angle. We have now made a full smooth transition down that wall with all this beautiful sawdust and easy chips. I don't feel comfortable getting in there into closed form and scraping, but I do think I can blend that corner now and forward with the bottom feeder. Okay, I still have almost a half at the bottom of the curve, so there's plenty of meat here to keep working. So that's what I'm going to do. So our walls up here are under 1/4, but what we're shooting for is a little bit heavier base, but still not to feel that way when you look inside of it. It's got to feel like it tracks the whole way down, and we're getting there. It's looking good. It's got a very nice feel. I like it. My bottom is flat because the bottom's flat, the round is good. Okay, I'm going to get out the shear scraper now. This is a Trent Bosch tool I normally use in my hollowing only, but it is proven to be a very effective tool when used freehand as well. So I'm going to freehand this one, if I can get all my stuff together. And I'll show you here in just a second. I'm sorry, I'm over at my tool change station, aka my little portable workbench. And here's what we got. This is a little teardrop shear scraper. Looks like I need to put an edge on it real quick, and we'll come back, put that together, and get a nice scrape. This works. It's usually used in my captive system, but I've had luck using it outside of that before. So just kind of keep it at right angle. Pray we don't get a catch. Tried to use it to shear scrape that corner. You could hear it was catching on the pith down there, and luckily I didn't have a lot of pressure on it. So there we go. There's going to be some sanding there, but I can get out a 2-inch disc. Probably have to start at 80 grit, which is never any fun, but I also don't want to risk blowing up my sides here with those heavy piths. We got a nice uniform wall thickness. We have a beautiful exterior. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and set up for sanding, and then I'll bring you guys back when we're ready to put a finish on it. I will put it on a time lapse for you, but I will start with a 2-inch 80 grit disc, and I will work all the way up through 400, and then we will hand polish and finish the inside when we're ready for that. I'm just putting on a little of our shop shine now. I've sanded it all the way out to 400. It had a lot of little punky spots down by that pith, so I had to do a little repair down there with some sawdust, and I didn't include that in there. You guys have seen how I do that. I use sawdust and Type Bond 3 for the repair in there, and it'll develop a nice patina over time, this bowl, if it's used like I intend. And it doesn't have any holes or anything in it, but it does have a knot pith that I really couldn't get a good seal on inside there. So I don't know if it'd be great for using cereal. This one's filled up pretty good. This one though just couldn't get a good fill on it. It still wanted to keep moving out. And you can see the repair there. Certain angles you can see it. Other angles you can't. But as the light hits it, different spots you can see where the glue and the sawdust is holding it together in one spot down there. So it ended up being a very pretty decorative bowl, but it's not a gallery masterpiece or anything like that, but it's a very pretty bowl from a kind of a scrap log of English walnut. So kind of cool. I didn't know, I learned this from Gary over at Papa 1947, that English walnuts here in the States are grafted to black walnut stumps so they will fruit and flower and give you English walnuts. I didn't know that. So this came from the Pacific Northwest over on the west side of the state from a friend of mine named Steve Pillar. I'm going to put a link down there to his eBay page. He sells a lot of blanks and some interesting wood. He comes from a family of loggers, and they have a big piece of property full of old slash piles that are, in some cases, over 100 years old. And back in the day, you know, burls, crotches, unstraight pieces of wood isn't what the sawmills wanted. They wanted nice, big, straight, flat logs. So the rest of the slash piles are just full of the kind of stuff that turners just love. So I'm going to flip this around, and we'll take off the tenon, maybe do a little beaded foot on this thing, and then we'll put it on the spinner and we'll talk about it a bit. So just like normal, removing the tenon from a bowl, I like to use the same rag that I did my finishing with, usually, inside there. We'll just get it over our jam chuck. It's just an old piece of redwood fence post. There's no no magic to the wood used. I prefer to use slightly softer woods than harder woods. Just seems to be a better end result for me. And then I like to keep my little dot on the bottom. You know that from when you did your original hollowing and roughing there. Put that down, keep the speed down a little bit when you start it up to see if we're nice and round. Beautiful spiral there. We went slow, so we got a nice big swooping spiral. So now we'll put 2 detail lines using a point tool to kind of delineate those before we finish our sanding. Kind of separates them out like that. And then all we have to do now is put a little bit of polish. This is only sanded to 220 on the bottom. And we take off that center there and sand it off, and we're good to go. I'll pop that off with the chisel. We'll sand it. We'll be right back when we're ready to show her off. Well, there she is. Got our English walnut bowl. She measured out just a little over 6 inches, 3.5 inches tall with a beaded rim. We textured the bottom. We had a nice finish on the inside. It's not perfect. We had to do a little fill in there around the knots and the pith. But all in all, I'm very happy with it. Turning dry English walnut is a real joy. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd sure appreciate a like, a comment, a subscribe. All those things really help our channel. And if you share the video, it really helps me out. Well, until next week, guys, hope you have a good time and get out there and turn something.